Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to the Friday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in as John Kachuba is back. We're going to talk about shapeshifters and other paranormal events that are around us. But first, we have to say hello to each and every one of you. And we're going to start off with Race Fan in the gold medal position. Man, it's been a few weeks since I said that. Mel WD-40 lubing up the silver medal. And Ozzy Ange taking home the bronze medal tonight. Kitty Cattywhack, how are you? Good to see you. Frankie B, Road Flare, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, how y'all doing tonight? Here we go. We got Moody Mongol. There he is. Yeah, we'll call him Moodens tonight. Barb Madison, Robert Lamoth, good to see you. Mama Catherine, mwah, I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a great night. I really do. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. T-Bone, my man, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call, there's Necessary Dialogue. Good to see you. And who's next on our list? Eternity Eternal and Cosmic Joe. Good to see you guys. In the studio, thanks for coming on in. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. And Millennium, my man, good to see you. Gory Tiger is here. Gory Tiger will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Scrolling on down, we got Walter Kochabinski. Good to see you. Who's next? Little Cam. Bench pressed 580 pounds, 27 times in 3 minutes. His arms are jacked tonight for this show. All right, moving on. Pam Harris, nice to see you. Hippie Deidre, thanks for coming on in. Undead Jed is here, as well as number 42 in your program, starting at right wing from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Kurt M., thanks for coming on in. Gamer Quest, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call here, scrolling on down, flat 6, Jerence Carter. Butterfly Bear on X, nice to see you. Butterfly Bear will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. It's the first time for Butterfly Bear, so please be gentle. Delilah, how are you? J Truthseeker, Alexander Leslie, Bert Hollix, nice to see you all here. Scrolling on down, let's say hello next to Boondock. Good to have you here. Marie Garman, thank you for coming on in. B. Arthur, yeah, B. Arthur said to say hi. Well, B. Arthur's a good guy. He really is. And Luscious Jules, nice to see you. Corey, how are you? As we continue on with our roll call here. And Charlene Williams, thanks for coming on in. Perfection to listen to while I drive. I love it. Look at that comment. That's a great comment right there. Paramarv, how are you tonight? Good to see you, my friend. And we are caught up so far. Until Erica Stover came in, and now I have to say, Erica Stover, welcome back to the show. Yep, that's the way we're doing. The Bert Hollix. Oh, I like it. The Bert Hollix. I'll do that next time. The unknown, what's happening, my friend? Good to see you. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have author, researcher John Kachuba on. We're going to get into shapeshifters and paranormal and so much more with John. It's going to be a fun show. And we are in roll call right now on our YouTube side, so stay tuned. We're about 45, 50 seconds away from launching tonight's show. Sean Flynn, welcome to SOR Chat. T-Bone, my man, thank you for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you very much. And who else is next? Phineas over on X. Nice to see you. Hey, we should remind all of you that this weekend you have Sweet Robbie G in the studio for After Hours. Saturday and Sunday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. He fires things off. Remember, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out. There's Sweet Robbie G right there. Throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods. We're together, my friends. Oh, it's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our spike as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight. Paranormal enthusiast, researcher, and author John Kachuba is going to join us momentarily to talk about shapeshifters and other paranormal beings. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick things off with another spooky story. We're going to lead after that with Extra Small Lee Strauss and the Q&A. So let's get right to it. Yeah, we brought this guy back because he's just so darn good. John Kachuba was on the show just a few months ago, and we meant to talk about shapeshifters then, but we talked about everything else, so we really didn't get into it. So I figured, Dirty Filth, my booking agent, you get John back here. We need to talk about shapeshifting. And, well, thank God John actually likes us because he decided that, yeah, he would come back. And that's always a good thing. So who is he? John is the author of 13 books of fiction and nonfiction, as his most recent book, The Bottle Conjuror, on an historical fantasy novel. Haycorn Smith and the Castle Ghost is a paranormal novel for middle grade readers. Other novels include Dark Entry and The Savage Apostle. He has been up for awards like the 2020 Bram Stoker Award. He was a finalist there. He's been a frequent speaker at paranormal conferences, done all sorts of television, and his website, because you're going to need that, johnkachuba.com. That's johnkachuba.com. Let's bring him on in. John Kachuba, it's so good to have you back on Spaced Out Radio, my man. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks. It's nice to be back already.
You like us. You really like us.
I like you. I like you. Yeah, I do. I like all Canadians.
Well, we appreciate that. We really do. And thank you for taking the time to join us tonight because, you know, I felt bad because when we do a show, here's a little insider information for our audience. When my booking agent, Klaus, does goes out and gets guests. We try and figure out a topic that we're going to discuss that night. But for some reason, because of the way I do interviews, which are kind of all over the place and messy and some would say not very professional, but I think they are. We just allow the conversation to happen. See, a lot of talk shows, they will actually, they'll have a notepad in front of them and it'll be filled with questions that they got to ask, that they have to go over. Me? Nah. Let's just have a conversation about some weird, cool things, man, and just let the conversation go. So when we had John booked last time, I think it was back in March, we had all arranged to talk about shapeshifters. And guess what? The one topic we really didn't discuss, shapeshifting. Kind of a ripoff. So we had to bring him back. We had no choice. So, John, forgive me for the past, but I'm glad you're here to talk about shapeshifters. And for our audience, how did you fall in love with these subjects?
Well, I grew up in New England, and I was always a big fan of history and all the folklore of the area. So I was a big fan of ghost stories and all that kind of stuff. I grew up in one of the towns that I lived in Connecticut was where Ed and Lorraine Warren lived. And your audience probably recognize them. I like to call them the godfather and godmother of American ghost hunting. Both are deceased now at this point, but I had a chance to meet them and everything. So I've always had an interest in just, the weird, the paranormal, the metaphysical, So it started with ghosts and it spread out through, shapeshifters, that we might actually get to talk about tonight. I don't know. We'll see. But, maybe. I've always just very much interested in those subjects.
You just mentioned, big names there in Ed and Lorraine Warren. And have you been following the story of Dan Rivera passing away while taking Annabelle out on tour?
I saw that. I saw it come across the internet and I read it, which was pretty amazing. He was 52, 53, something like
54,
that?
Yeah.
54, yeah, pretty young. Well, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, right away, people are going to say, well, that's what you do when you travel with that's what happens when you travel with Annabelle, right? But I mean, it's a sad thing. It's a tragedy, and I don't want to make light of it.
No, but the paranormal community is going to jump all over that, like they have.
Of course, yeah. And I don't know if they determined, what actually happened and what he died from, but say he was young, so I don't know what to make of that.
Would you travel with a haunted doll like Annabelle?
I do not have, I really don't have anything like that. Although, with shapeshifters, I don't know, like werewolves or anything like that. I don't believe in any of that stuff, Dave. So,
No, I get that. But if you had the opportunity to say travel with Annabelle or Robert the doll or whomever, would you do that?
Sure. Yeah, I would. If nothing else, just to no other reason, just to see maybe what happens. I mean, it's like when people ask me about ghosts and there's all these different locations for ghosts. And they say, well, I went there and I spent a couple hours and I didn't see anything. And I kind of laugh and say, well, you can't just call them and say, hey, I'm going to be here at 10 o'clock, show up for me. You have to be there and spend some time, right? So I would think traveling with any haunted object on a tour or something would be interesting. Spend more time with it. You see how other people react to it. See if anything happens.
John, you have delved into a number of different topics regarding the paranormal, supernatural. For people who may be on the fence of whether or not this exists, explain why people should believe that there is high strangeness going on.
Well, I think the simple answer is we just have no idea what is out there and what remains, still as a mystery. I remember there was a quote from Einstein that I might misquote, but he said at one time that he didn't want to live in a universe that had no magic in it. And I don't think by magic he actually meant, conjuring and sorcery as much as just mysteries that are beyond our understanding, beyond our experience. And so I kind of subscribe to that slogan of his, because I do think that the paranormal, I mean, the word simply means beyond normal, something that we can't explain. And for me, the paranormal it's a mystery. I'm not one to immediately say that anything called paranormal means that it's supernatural entities or, aliens or ghosts. I'm willing to say that it deserves consideration, deserves exploration, investigation, because we don't know what it means. It may very well end up that this particular paranormal incident we're talking about could be a spirit, could be an alien, could be something from an alternate reality. I don't know. But I think we need to be open. I hate to think that people have closed minds about things, So for me, ask why, because it's a big universe, multiverse, I should say. And we don't know what's out there, and we don't know the nature of it. And I think we should be curious about it. I think we should try to understand as much as we can our place in the whole mix of things.
We don't know very much about what happens when we die. We don't know what happens if our spirit keeps going. We like to believe that that is the case. For many, they believe, we're one and done. Much like a bad interview on Spaced Out Radio. You could be one and done if you're a bad interview. But that many people believe that that's the way it is in life. You get one shot on this planet, then you're just a distant memory and a speck of time. That being said, what proof do you have or that you've seen that convinces you there is something out there?
Proof. Wow.
Well, it doesn't have to be hardcore, but things that you have seen or studied that convince you that there is more to this than just ashes to ashes and dust to dust.
So one thing that's going to sound a little strange, because it really isn't so much a paranormal thing. All through college, I worked in a hospital, and I worked directly in patient care. Part of the time I worked as an emergency room tech, other times on the floors in the hospital as just giving patient care. And I saw a fair number of people pass away. At that moment when that transition happens, I was there by their bedside. And all I can say is that there is something, if people have not experienced it, and I hope you don't, but we probably all will at some point, it's a profound experience. And what you see is that something literally happens. I'm not saying that I saw like an aura or angels standing there or anything like that, but there was just something at looking at that person. And then at that moment when they pass on, there's a change. And I don't know how else to explain it, but something happens that tells me that something has just sort of left this person, because that person is not that person anymore. And whatever it is maybe gone on. Now, the interesting thing is I've talked to nurses and doctors who have actually said, obviously they experienced this a lot more than I did. But I've had some that actually said that at that moment of death, that they actually saw something. And sometimes it'd be referred to as like a little flicker, a glow, something that was there for just a couple of seconds, but literally almost passing. People with a very strong religious bent would say, well, yeah, that's the soul leaving the body. Well, maybe it is. But whatever it is, whatever the essence is that is us, I've had doctors and nurses tell me that they've actually witnessed it and seen it. So is that proof of anything? No, but I mean, it's sort of, to me, it feeds into the idea of there's possibilities for what comes after. And I don't know what comes after. I go back and forth on it. Part of the time I think, yeah, we just, we're carbon. That's it. We die, we're carbon again, But I also tend to think that and I want to believe this, that there's something internal in us. And again, without being eternal, not internal, eternal, and without being religious or anything, just some essence that is who we are, consciousness, spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it. I believe that that's there. And I believe that that goes on somehow. I also see that evidenced a lot with some of my friends who are spiritualists, members of the spiritualist church, because their whole idea is to call on whatever's gone before, right? They make contact with spirit. And you can almost feel that when you go to a spiritualist service. You can feel the energy. And you kind of think like there must be energy between us and somewhere above, which would be that. So there's that. And then, of course, going on different kinds of ghost investigations, paranormal investigations, you always get little bits and pieces of things that you say are evidence, like EVP, electronic voice phenomena. You get enough of that, authentic EVPs that really make sense. You think, okay, I'm talking to something somewhere, and it's not just the guy next door to me. Or when you see things move or something, and that defies all laws of physics. What is that about? So there's a lot of bits and pieces. I wish I could really, really prove it, be the guy to do that.
You mentioned EVPs. Man, we've got a couple at one of our investigation places over the last few weeks where we weren't even searching for EVPs. And they popped up on our microphones. It was absolutely incredible. The first one was some children. And we are literally about 25, 30 miles deep into the forest as we're doing this. And there is nobody around except us. And here we have children talking. It called me Captain and then mumbled something. And then Tim kind of fumbled with his GoPro, and you hear the same voice say, uh-oh, and then he turns, mumbles a sentence, and then you hear him giggle.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
In the middle of the forest, too, yeah.
And then recently we had Tim, because I use Tim as my guinea pig, because it's fun that way. He's the rookie of this all, right? So while he was under the Estes method, I was asking questions, and then all of a sudden through my microphone, you hear a male's voice say, "We're firefighters, dummy."
Whoa.
And I didn't appreciate being called a dummy by the ghost, but, the cool part about it where we're investigating is if you're using an SB7 ghost box, John, we have no radio station signals here.
Oh.
So when the SB7 is going through the FM dial, you cannot hear a single radio station. It is all static white noise.
Oh. That's
so so when we hear a voice, we know it's something.
Yeah. Well, and especially like I say, you're out in the middle of the woods someplace up there in British Columbia. I mean, there's probably not a lot up there.
Well, in town, we have one radio station that has an FM and an AM station in it. Mm-hmm. But their signals are so small, it doesn't get to where we are.
Yeah. Wow.
So it gives us, like, for us doing what we're doing, it actually helps us.
Yeah.
Because now we can determine that there is no voices coming through. What's the best EVP you've ever heard?
Well, there's been a couple. I was just thinking that one was I was teaching at Ohio University for several years, and that's in Athens, Ohio, down in the southeast corner of the state. And part of the campus has a building that they call the Ridges, which began life in 1870 something as the Athens Lunatic Asylum. So it's one of these old, mental institutes where people were locked up because we had no other way of treating them in those days. And I did an investigation. It's obviously no longer a mental institute, but I did an investigation there with a group, and we put recorders in different parts of the building. It was like a 3-story building and all. And we put a recorder down in the basement, and in the basement were various rooms that were, well, I guess they were sort of what you would call the padded cells, the ones where they would keep patients who were, physically in danger of hurting themselves or others and just violent. They didn't have any other way of treating them. So basically just locking them up in a padded cell. So we had one recorder down there and we let it play throughout the course of the night. So when the investigation was all over, we're gathering up all our gear and everything and, we're playing back the recorders. And as we play this one, all we're hearing, like you said, white noise, that's all we're hearing. It's just, shh, for like the longest time. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of that, we hear this whispered voice say, "Would you help us? Would you help us?" Just like that.
My.
Clear as a bell, right? Would you help us? And so he said, "Oh my God." So what I liked about that one, a couple of things. We listened to individually and nobody said like, "Hey, listen to this. You're going to hear, would you help us?" No, you listen to this. Tell me what you hear. And everybody came back and said, "Yeah, I heard, would you help us?" And what I like about that is it makes sense, in the context of where the recorder was. This was in a mental institute with a cell that had a person who was violent and really kind of, on the edge there. And if that spirit or whatever had seen people walking by his cell, what's he going to say? "Get me out of here. Help me." Right. So you get this, "Would you help us?" And interestingly, help us. Thinking, wow, is there more than one? So that was probably one of the most significant ones I've had in a long time. There was another one I liked though, where I was in an investigation in it's a farmhouse here from like the early 1800s that is now part of a country club, and it's the country club locker rooms and all that now in this farmhouse has been remodeled. And so I was in the men's locker room with a couple other guys. There's a little poker table, and we're sitting around the poker table. And it's like 2:00 in the morning. We all put out our recorders, and we went around the room. We just introduced ourselves to the air, So, "Hey, I'm Bob, okay. Hey, I'm Pete." So we went around, and I said, "I'm John." And that was it. Of course, we didn't hear anything or whatever. So again, on playback, we hear the voices. The guy says, "I'm Bob, I'm John, I'm Pete." Then I say, "I'm John." And immediately after that, I hear John, just like calling me, like, okay. So that's pretty cool because, it actually picked up on my name, so I was like, all right. So those are pretty interesting, but.
90 seconds to go. Do you have a favorite paranormal moment that has happened to you personally?
Yeah. This was one in the May Stringer House, which is in Brooksville, Florida. And it's now the County Historical Society Museum. So it's a Victorian home, belonged to a doctor back in the 1800s, late 1800s. And now it has all Victorian furniture in it. You can go in and visit during the day. It's a museum. So they've got a couple of ghosts that they say that are there. One being the physician's daughter, a little girl named Ruby, who was about 3 years old. And Ruby's mother, who was a doctor's wife, died in that house giving childbirth to Ruby. So she died in childbirth. The baby survived, but Ruby passed away when she was 3 years old. I forgot, it was either yellow fever or cholera, one of these diseases back in the 18th century, 19th century that, killed a lot of kids and adults as well because we just didn't have any cure for it. But anyway, we're doing this investigation. We're there all night long and nothing's happening. The house was really quiet, eerily quiet. There was something about it. It was almost like, I'll describe it almost as having texture. It was almost like a dense quiet. Like you could almost touch it. You could almost feel it, which was really odd. But nothing was going on. And one of the people in the group with us was the kind of supervisor at the home there at the house. And she was very apologetic. And she's saying, "Oh, we have so much activity here all the time. And now I bring in some ghost hunters. And wouldn't you know, nothing
Hold
happened."
that thought. Hold that thought. We'll continue that story when we return. Author John Kachuba, his website, johnkachuba.com. Make sure you check it on out. You can find all of his books there. We're going to continue this next on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear. Carrie Doyle, how you doing? Good start, my friend. Brooke Michelle, how are you? Now, can I make another half hour? Or do I go get a Tums here? Have any here? I'm just going to quickly put you in the green room. I got to go get some Tums here. I'll be right back, okay?
It's okay.
Be right back, everybody. Sorry about that, John.
No, that's okay.
I've found over the last year and a half, 2 years, like I love tomatoes, but if I eat too much tomato or like tomato sauce or anything, I just develop really bad heartburn.
Yeah. We don't have that
Sucks.
problem because the deer eat all our tomatoes. So,
Oh, I came home the other day and there's a deer standing right on my front porch trying to get at the hanging baskets.
oh no, oh my God.
Yeah. Let's see, who do we got here? Bobbert, how you doing? Good to see you. Ms. Mary, looking lovely tonight. Who else is looking lovely? Well, let's take a look here. Yay, you're looking lovely tonight. We're caught up. There we go. We're caught up. People wondering when we're going to be releasing the next video on Flight 21. We're hoping to have it up Sunday. I will do a premiere for that on YouTube. And if not, it'll be Monday or Tuesday. We're out filming tomorrow, so it all depends on how much work Tim gets done tonight and tomorrow and Sunday morning. So we're working on it. Jeff Steve Garvey is here. He'll hit a home run for you. We got about 45 seconds, John. Spiraling 69, how are you? Thank you to T-Bone for our lone super chat tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And here we go in 5 seconds. Go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, John Kachuba is here, author, paranormal researcher. He's got some great books out that can be found at johnkachuba.com. And John, right before the break, I had to cut you off, but we were talking about your favorite paranormal encounter that you have had.
Right. So, as I said, so this was at the May Stringer House in Florida, Brooksville, Florida. And nothing was going on in the house, but there are supposedly a couple of ghosts, including Ruby, a 3-year-old girl. But as we were leaving the building, this was like, I don't know, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that, turning all the lights off, the building's dark. And remember, this is all furnished and all Victorian furniture. So we had to go out through the kitchen. And the kitchen had a big old pot-bellied stove, one of the old big black stoves there. And laying across the lid of it was a metal bar, like a steel bar, probably 18 inches long or so. And it had kind of like a hook at the end of it. And the idea was this was the bar that you would use to lift up the lid when that stove got hot and you had to throw more wood in it. You couldn't touch it. So you use this big metal bar. Well, it's laying completely over the top of the lid. And as we walked by, there's 3 of us, and being really unprepared ghost hunters, we only had one flashlight. So we're staying kind of close so we can see where we're going with one flashlight. But as we walked past that stove, all of a sudden this big metal rod that was laying across it flips up. It does like a 180, like really fast, and it slams down on the lid. It goes bam, and actually pops off and lands on the floor. Like I said, this was about an 18-inch piece of metal. It probably weighed, a pound or something like that. And I mean, we saw this, we literally saw it lift up and flip over, did a 180, which was, that was pretty cool to see something that dramatic. And so, of course, we had everything packed up, right? We're walking out. So our cameras are off, our recorders are off. Obviously, that's when it happens. But, we said the most obvious and stupid thing possible. We stood there and said, "Did you see that?" Yeah, we saw it. And actually, we spent some time there, Dave, trying to say, well, could we have recreated that? Was it something that we did? Did we knock into the thing? But there was no way that even if somebody forcefully knocked into this cast iron stove, big potbelly stove, there's no way you're going to move it or even get, flip up this bar to do a 180 with force, with violence, to slam down as if somebody really just picked it up and went whack. So the person who was in the party with us, who was the supervisor at the house, kind of smiled, and she said, well, Ruby was here. She was just saying goodbye to us. So, okay, well, maybe she was after all that time. But that was dramatic. It was loud, it was noisy, and we all saw it, which was the nice part. All 3 of us saw it happen just in real time.
All right, let's move on here, because I do have to get to the topic that I wanted to talk to you about months ago, and that is shapeshifters.
Yeah.
Shapeshifters are something that have been depicted in movies for decades. When it gets to, haunted horror type movies or suspense movies, there always seems to be something changing its shape, what it is, its color, its location, everything. How did you get into Shapeshifters?
Well, I think it stemmed out of all my ghost work because, as you mentioned earlier, I do a lot of public speaking. Not just on shows like yours and TV, but at universities and libraries and conferences. And afterwards, I always have a Q&A. And people were frequently telling me their ghost experiences. But what I was hearing more often than not, and I don't know if I was just starting to pay attention to it more or if they're becoming more frequent, but somebody would explain to me an experience they had that they said was a ghost experience. But in listening to it, it was like, man, it didn't sound so much like a ghost, because they would say something like, yeah, I saw the thing in the stairs, and then as it moved down, it seemed to, change. It got smaller, it got bigger, it changed in color or something. I'm thinking, what changed? Why would it change? So I just started thinking about, shapeshifters, which everybody thinks of the quintessential, the werewolf, the vampire, that kind of thing. But I got really intrigued by what I was hearing. And so I just started to do some basic research. And what I found out just on the surface was that the shapeshifter character exists in probably every culture around the world, and has done so since, ancient times up to today. Now, the shapeshifters are all different, but it seems like every culture has some type of a shapeshifting character. And as you know, I mean, they're certainly popular, in, like you say, in movies and books, popular culture. We go to all the sites, that Dracula sites and places like that too. So they're very popular, and they always have been, which is what my research showed, that, again, they've been depicted in theology, philosophy, history, folk tales, popular culture, even psychology. I even have a chapter in my book, and the book was Shapeshifters, A History. So it's a nonfiction sort of overview of this whole huge world of shape-shifting entities, and how they show up.
They are part of legend and folklore going back on every continent, with every society that has gone on for millennia. I mean, there is a true history here of these creatures. I mean, you think of Greek gods, you think of Roman gods, they were all shapeshifters. The creatures that wandered were shapeshifters, never mind spirits and everything. I mean, there is a true classic history to this being a reality.
Yeah, there is. And you mentioned, Greek and Roman. And of course, I talk a lot about that. I talk about Egyptian mythology, as well as some other ancient, Celts, the Celtic people. I mean, there's so many variations of the shapeshifter. But in my book, I have, there's some illustrations in it as well. And in one of them is a photo of a cave drawing from a cave in France. And it dates back to like the Neolithic period. So we're talking, thousands of years, right? And when you look at this thing, it's a very interesting character. It looks like a deer standing on its hind legs and kind of with its, front legs kind of out. And its head is turned looking straight at you, and it's got antlers. But the interesting thing is, when you look at this picture closely, you'll notice that the feet are not hooves like we would expect, but they're literally articulated toes. The artist drew toes and fingers in the feet, and now I guess hands. Well, we know deer don't have toes and fingers. And the other thing was, the head is turned looking straight at you, and the eyes are like ours. They're dead center rather than more to the side like real deer. And it's got antlers. So, anthropologists were speculating, well, what the heck is this? And what they thought it was a depiction of a shaman who was transforming from a human form into a deer. So they call that hunter magic. because what they speculated on was that what may have been going on was there could have been some kind of a ceremony where this shaman has his hunters before him, gathered before him, and he's drawing this image on the wall. And while he's doing that, maybe there's chanting or who knows what, but also it's a good bet that the hunters and the shaman were probably also eating some natural hallucinogenics from the environment, mushrooms or who knows what, to get themselves in a state where they started to believe that they were deers, that they were transforming into deer, just like this shaman who's painting it on the wall. So, I mean, it's a fascinating history. And that's thousands of years ago. So it's, I was just amazed. This was the book you mentioned, being a finalist in the Bram Stoker. It was for this book because it took me a lot of research. I was in 8 countries in Europe doing research on it. And I spent a couple of years just going through texts and everything else. It was fascinating to write.
Give us some ancient examples of shapeshifters.
Well, I mean, you mentioned, the Greeks, for instance, Zeus, I mean, is a champion in that regard. There's at least 12 different forms that he took over his career, if you will. A bull, an eagle, an ant, a golden shower of rain. He took the shape of another man to seduce that man's wife. So he was a champion at that, But you go into like a lot of the Celt stuff, and there's ancient ones like Kelpies, people that come up, literally sort of mer people that come up from the sea. Some of them, actually, there's horses too that do it, and they transform into humans and go back to the sea later on. I mean, there's hundreds, there's thousands. I don't know where to go with that. So many.
If I look at shapeshifters from today, okay, the ones that I can recognize, because I'm more modern on this, mm-hmm. I think of werewolves. Mm-hmm. I think of, obviously, vampires, real vampires, not the people who want to play the role or identify as.
Right.
I think of, shadow beings. They can blend in. Some people believe Sasquatch is a shapeshifter. Mm-hmm. Dogmen are shapeshifters. First Nation people talk about shapeshifters all around. Skinwalkers, Wendigos. We have a lot of cryptid creatures out there and paranormal creatures out there that are currently being hyped up as shapeshifters. Right,
absolutely. And then you have some people that believe there's alien reptilian shapeshifters or just alien shapeshifters. The one theory is that they're reptilian in form, but there's a lot of people that say, there's entities from other planets, other dimensions even, that are capable of shapeshifting, and in fact have to shapeshift in order to get along in our society, right? Because if you saw any alien in their true form, whatever that might be, we wouldn't be able to handle that, So they need to be shapeshifters just to get into our society and sort of be accepted that way. Or I shouldn't say accepted, to pretend to be us, I guess is the way to look at it.
What is your favorite modern day shapeshifter?
That's a good question. I like all of them. Well, I'm still kind of a classic guy, though. I mean, I still like the werewolf a lot, and I like that because I think, if anything, there's more of a basis in truth to that than maybe some of the other shapeshifters. And what I mean by that is, if you look at, what was the first animal that man domesticated? It was the wolf, right? And the dog is a descendant of the wolf. So man and wolves have always had this close relationship from ancient times to today. I mean, there's dog lovers. Why do we love dogs? Is there something within us? And so I'm wondering, this whole idea of man transforming into a canine, into a wolf, and back and forth as shapeshifters, that almost seems to have some historical context to it. You know what I mean? It's almost like, yeah, this could have been because we had such a close relationship with wolves and dogs from ancient times. So I kind of like that, and it's sort of like playing on that. And I also like the fact that the werewolf character itself has even changed from sort of being just this savage beast, you know, a person that turns into this ravenous, savage, raving wolf, to wolves now that have a little more sophistication. They're more intelligent. They work in packs. Some of them, as they're depicted in novels and movies, have some extra sensory abilities to be in packs of werewolves and everything like that. And some Native American writers, like Stephen Graham Jones, has written a lot about werewolves, and his take on them is so different and so modern. There are people, according to one of his novels, that, yeah, we know we're werewolves, and we take it in stride. And sometime around 12, 13, when we hit puberty, yep, that's when we start turning into werewolves. It's it's awesome. So I like that whole range with the werewolf of coming from ancient times to today and how it's being transformed. And that's quintessential of so many shapeshifters today, is that they continue to shapeshift. They continue to evolve. Think of the vampire. You mentioned vampires earlier, real vampires. Think of how vampires were depicted a long time ago, or even what the vampires really were in Romanian culture and Eastern European culture. And they weren't these blood-sucking creatures. Actually, they were, emaciated, scrawny creatures. No, they were healthy, ruddy, corpulent, dead people who were feeding on the life force of others, not sucking their blood. And so that all transformed. And now you have vampires like in Twilight, and think of drawing a blank, the New Orleans writer. Oh my God, how am I forgetting her? That wrote Lestat and all the vampire novels. How am I losing her name? I don't know. Anyway, their vampires are educated, they're intellectual, they're rich, they're glamorous. So shapeshifter characters are continuing to evolve, which is pretty amazing. They're shapeshifting on their own.
Do you believe that there are currently humans who can shapeshift?
So first of all, the writer was Anne Rice. Thank you, Anne, for letting me know. Well, I don't. So I have two ways of looking at that. I don't believe in the biological possibility of me suddenly sprouting claws and hair. Well, I got some of it, but I mean, the rest of it, and fangs, and becoming a wolf. However, in my book, I talk about external and internal shapeshifters. Those are two terms that I just kind of invented and threw out there. And the external shapeshifters are the ones like the werewolves, the vampires, where you see an actual physical change. Internal are people that, for all practical purposes, we see them as normal, everyday human beings, but there's something inside them that is switched, and they behave differently. Back in France and in Germany, around the 1600s in both countries, there are many accounts of people that suffered from what they were calling lycanthropy, right? They believed that they were turning into werewolves. Now, you didn't see anything physical. They didn't turn into werewolves that you can see, but they acted out. They ran around on all fours. I mean, some of them killed people. And when they killed them, they literally tore them apart with their bare hands. They ate some of them. And when some of these people were captured, they'd be growling and spitting and biting and fighting. They believed, all practical purposes, they had switched. Now, there wasn't anything exterior that said we're dealing with a wolf here, but for all practical purposes, you were. So there's that kind of thing going on as well. And I don't know how to. That's shapeshifting. I still think that's shapeshifting, but I don't know how else to. I don't know how to explain it, but it happens.
When I think of shapeshifting, I think of these creatures that are allegedly immortal. Maybe they've sold their soul for eternity in trade.
Right.
I think of immortals, I think of skinwalkers, which are medicine men and women that have decided that they would choose selfishness instead of helping others for immortality. I mean, we've heard about these legends all around. That to me would equate that maybe some of these people can go from human to, whatever they want to be.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned that, because some of the examples that I just gave about lycanthropy, when some of these people were eventually, arrested, brought to justice, there was a common story among not all of them, but several of these people, both in France and in Germany, who would talk about meeting, frequently they would say, a black man in the woods or something, who would, like you said, trade. It's interesting you said that, because they would trade something. And he would give them like an ointment or something that, according to their stories, that once they applied this ointment, they would have the ability to transform into a werewolf. Or now, again, no one saw them actually transforming into that, but they believe that. But they all had this story about getting that ability from some entity, some supernatural entity, and the church got involved a lot with this, because they would say that black entity in the woods was obviously Satan, obviously the devil, and this is the work of the devil. So they were very much involved in this. And a lot of the inquiries and depositions and everything else were all conducted by the church on these guys. But yeah, so, I mean, you mentioned skinwalkers, and you're right. Usually, especially among like the Southwest nations in my country, like the Paiute and the Dene and those folks who believe very strongly in skinwalkers, and in their tradition, the skinwalker is a shaman who has somehow got the power, the magic, the ability to shift into something else. Frequently, again, interestingly enough, usually something canine, a wolf, coyote, something like that. And normally they do this for sinister purposes. They're not out to help anybody when they do that.
No, and that's a big thing. I mean, then that becomes something of ego, which is a human trait that turns them against what they stood for.
Right. Yep.
It's just so weird and interesting, because I don't know how I would react if I saw a shapeshifter. I mean, it even goes into religious aspect too, as we got about a minute to go here, because many people believe that the devil can shapeshift into something that is, looking peaceful. Many people believe that angels will come down and help you at a crucial time. You may not even know it, but all of a sudden they shapeshift into a bird and fly away because they just vanish, or whatever it may be. I mean, it seems like we're surrounded with this topic, John.
Yeah. Well, in religion, we can get into it after the break here, because I have some things to say about that. But just quickly, like you mentioned, angels. And so often the Bible says that whoever the angels appeared to, that those people didn't recognize them as angels because they looked like mortal men. And then it was only later on when they said, oh, that was an angel. So were they shape-shifting to look more human, to appear to people?
Well, that's one of the big arguments that we have. And this is why I'm saying, how do we know we're not surrounded by these shape-shifting creatures or angels or deities, whatever you want to call them?
Yeah, well, and that's again part of the whole thing with the like you said, aliens. Yeah, because in order to blend in, they have to look like us. They have to be like us. And yeah, I don't know when you discover that, it's a shapeshifter, but
it's a weird topic. John, we're going to continue this great discussion when we return on Spaced Out Radio. Author John Kachuba, his website, johnkachuba.net or .com rather, where you can get all of his latest books. Add them to your library. Yes, books are still good, people. You don't have to have everything online. Hold the book every. is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, John, we are clear. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to put you in the green room for right now. We'll be back in a few minutes, okay?
Good. Yep, and get some water in the meantime. Good. Thanks.
All right, here we go. Be right back, everybody. All right, here we go. Thank you tonight to Marie and T-Bone, my man, for the great super chats. We greatly appreciate your love and support. Roger, how you doing? Good to see you. Who else has jumped in here late? Mish, how you doing? Good to see you. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. And here we go with hour number 2. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Abditive. Abditive is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to our guest. This gentleman has been here before. We love him here. John Kachuba is with us. We're having a great time talking about Shapeshifters. Now, John's website is johnkachuba.com. That's johnkachuba.com, where you can find all of his books, which are absolutely great. And John, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Dave. This is always fun.
We were talking right before the break about Shapeshifters, obviously, since that's the topic of the night. And we were getting into the religious aspect of everything. Angels, demons, everything in between that seems to shapeshift along with us. And like you said, as an example, right before the break, that, sometimes people's, even biblically, it says, the people were not even noticing the angels right around them, right? And you wanted to elaborate on this.
Yeah. So I actually have a couple of, a section of my book about this, because one of the earliest notification examples of shapeshifting actually occurs in the Bible, and it's the book of Daniel. And it says, I'm just going to paraphrase, but basically it talks about King Nebuchadnezzar, who incurs the wrath of God in the Bible. And he's punished by being turned into some kind of an animal. And it describes him as, it says, like eating the dew of the grass and having like claws. We don't know what he was turned into, but this is the book of Daniel. I mean, this is in the Bible, right? But then, even when you go to the New Testament, and I have to say, when I wrote about this, I got a little controversy on it, which I expected, but I talked about some of the possibilities of Jesus as a shapeshifter. And there was a theologian from the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands who translated part of a old parchment that was written in the Coptic language. And it was in the Morgan Library in New York. And when he translated it, it was part of the Bible. And it was a section where, let me see if I got this right. It's a section where Judas is talking to the high priest and all this, and he's going to deliver Jesus to them. And they say, and he says, well, we'll be in the garden tonight, we'll be up there. And they say, well, how will we recognize him? Well, in the Bible that we see today, he says, well, I'll kiss his cheek and you'll know. Well, this translation, it goes a little further, because the priests say to Judas, how will we know him? Because sometimes he appears young, sometimes he appears old, Sometimes he appears ruddy, meaning kind of like with a kind of reddish complexion. Sometimes he appears as wheat, meaning a lighter, almost white complexion. So, what is that about? If they're saying that Jesus was appearing in all these different forms, is that a metaphor just to mean that, he appealed to a bunch of different kinds of people? Or was he literally changing his physical appearance depending on who he's talking to or who he's, the crowd that he's with or whatever? So that's one example. There's another one where after Jesus is crucified, he's buried, and the disciples kind of scatter because they're afraid, right? So story talks about two of the disciples on the road, and they're walking to a town called Emmaus. And all of a sudden, as they're walking, the Bible says that this other person just appears in their midst and walks with them and joins in their conversation and is talking to them. And they're talking about Jesus and saying, oh, this was terrible, what happened, and all this kind of stuff. And, Jesus apparently is right there. He's walking with his disciples who he saw only a couple of days ago when he was crucified, and they don't recognize him at all. They don't know who he is. They think it's just some total stranger that just is joining him on the walk. And it's not till they get to this village and they have a dinner and he breaks the bread where the Bible says that then they recognized him. Well, how can they not recognize the guy that they just spent 2 or 3 years of their life 24/7 traveling all around Judea and everything else, and in close quarters walking with them, talking to them? They don't recognize him. So the possibility, did he shapeshift? And another one, which is the transfiguration, where Jesus goes up to a mountain, top of the mountain, and he tells the disciples, you guys stay down here. I'm going to go up top. You stay here and pray, and I'm just going to go up there. And he goes up there, and the Bible says that the spirits of Moses and, I don't know, Ezekiel maybe, I forgot, appear up there with him. And all three of them are sort of radiant. So he's in, as they say, in glory. His body is radiant. It's like glowing. It's white. It's so bright that they can't even look up the mountain to see him. And then he comes back down and everything's fine. He's normal again. What is that? What kind of transformation is that? He shifted into what? Like a light being of some kind? And what does that mean? Interestingly enough, the Buddha had the same kind of transfiguration twice in his lifetime too. So yeah, I mean, there was instances right in the Bible. And like I said, I caught a little bit of flack from a Catholic journal that reviewed the book. I don't even know why they reviewed the book to begin with, but they did. And they liked what they read until they got to that part. And I understand that. But I wasn't being insulting. In fact, I was saying, if you are a Christian and if you believe in Jesus and you believe that he's God, well, you believe he walked on water, he made the blind see, the lame walk, and he rose from the dead. Well, if he could do all that, shapeshifting would be a mere parlor trick, right? He shouldn't have any difficulty doing that. So, I mean, I don't think it, interferes with anybody's belief in Jesus as God if they do believe that. So anyway, there you go. So I'll burn in hell, but what can that happens.
Well, it is very interesting when you think about that this is happening all around us. And sure, you have to have, I don't want to say a little imagination because I think that's wrong, but you have to have a little faith, probably the better term, that there is something more spiritually connected with shapeshifting than anything else. Let's talk about werewolves here for a minute, because many people, say that, on a full moon night, that's when the werewolves come out. Yet on a full moon night, I remember talking to my sister who worked 34 years in the British Columbia penitentiary system. And she said the guards were always on guard on full moons because these people who were locked up, they would change. and it would be like a 24-hour change where all of a sudden they would be going absolutely hysterical, and they knew by the statistics that there was, a real change in the way that these prisoners acted while
Yeah.
a full moon was going on. I mean, how
Right.
weird is that?
Well, yeah. And as I said, part of the time in college, I worked in the emergency room. And I can remember nurses saying, "Oh, must be a full moon night," because that's when the emergency room would go crazy. We have all the drunks come in and car accidents and shootings. It's like, the rest of the week would be like nothing. And all of a sudden, a full moon, you get all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know statistically, like you said, statistically at the prison, it works out. Does it work out otherwhere? It must, because people always talk about that. But, if you think about it, I mean, the moon does exert some force on Earth, on us, right? I mean, it does have gravitational force and everything, and it does actually have some physical effects on our anatomy. I don't know if it changes us into something else, but the interesting thing about that werewolf deal, about the werewolf coming out the full moon, that was never part of werewolf lore until the Lon Chaney movie, The Werewolf, Wolfman. That's when it came out. They had that poem in there about the wolfbane blooms and all this stuff. But the idea of the full moon causing werewolves was never part of the werewolf folklore until like the 1930s when that movie came out. And now it became, sure, full moon. Is that it's kind of interesting though that a couple hundred years before that of werewolf lore, full moon didn't matter.
It was so weird on that part. Paranormally speaking, as we, are kind of focused on the paranormal aspect of everything, what type of paranormal creatures have you investigated about the shapeshifter?
Well,
is it just ghosts, or is it other entities as well?
Well, so for my research, I wanted to check other entities. Well, let me back up first of all. There are shape-shifting ghosts, especially not so much in our sort of ghost lore in the West and the Western countries, but if you go like to Japan and Asia, a lot of Asian countries, a lot of their ghosts are also shapeshifters. It's pretty common. So in Japan, what you find that frequently a ghost, usually a female ghost, that was maybe murdered by her husband's lover, or that she committed suicide because she found out her husband was cheating on her, or whatever. Those female ghosts sometimes come back as shapeshifters. And what they do is they will shapeshift into, for instance, like the husband's girlfriend, so that they can then kill the husband who killed them. So it's kind of gory and kind of bloody. But that's a traditional sort of motif in Japanese, ghost culture, that they're shape-shifting ghosts, and they're really scary and pretty creepy. But I think for the research, I was looking at entities. So, for instance, I was in France, and I was in an area called Gévaudan, which is in Provence, and that's where that area, there was something called the Beast of Gévaudan, that in the 18th century was this huge canine of some kind that ran rampant through several villages in this area and killed over 100 people for about 2 years before somebody finally, they think, killed it. It's kind of murky as to what happened to the beast. But, so I was looking at that kind of thing. And there's little memorials in all these villages to people that were either killed by the wolf or fought the wolf off, whatever it was, werewolf or whatever. In Romania, I was at the site. Those are primarily vampires, but I was in areas that mostly associated with the Dracula legend and Vlad Tepes and those kinds of things. So, yeah, so I was really seeking out entities more than ghosts. I was actually surprised to find the shape-shifting ghosts in the Japanese culture.
Is this happening in every country around the world, or are these more congregated sightings in certain sections?
That's the thing, Dave. I'm finding it everywhere. I mean, all South American countries, Central American countries, Africa, any country in Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia. I mean, they're everywhere, and I wouldn't say that they're necessarily concentrated, like specifically in any one area. Although, like for instance, in India, the New York Times ran an article back in 1970 something about children in an area of India called Uttar Pradesh, one of the Indian states, and there were several children. I think up to maybe 20 that over a period of several months went missing, and often their bodies were later found and they were mauled and everything else. And the people were convinced that there was a werewolf. Actually, what they called it, they didn't call it a werewolf; they called it a wolf man, which same thing, right? But that there was a werewolf out there, and the people panicked to the point where they actually killed a couple of other guys that they said were the ones changing into werewolves. Again, like shamans or whatever they would call them in India, but they never found out what happened. And after a while, the killings just stopped. And they still don't know to this day what happened. But they had eyewitness accounts of people saying, and this is an article in the New York Times. This isn't some, weird paranormal magazine somebody put together in their basement. This is top-notch reporting. And there were people in India that they had the account of a girl, like a 10-year-old girl, who said that she saw her 5-year-old brother carried off by, she said it was a man, actually a man wolf, not a wolf man. They said a man wolf. She said it was carried off by this man wolf who picked her son up, her brother up, threw him over his shoulder and ran off on 2 legs like a human being. But she said, but he was hairy. He was a beast. He was an animal. So that's one specific area of India that had, I would say a run of bad luck with shapeshifters.
No kidding. No kidding. Let's take a couple audience questions here, if you don't mind. And we'll kick things off tonight with Carrie here, who is asking, do you know why they call aliens extraterrestrial? A little off topic when we're talking paranormal and shapeshifters, but I'll ask it.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, the word would mean, obviously, that they come from somewhere other than Earth, right? But there is some people that are saying that some aliens that we're calling aliens might be from alternate realities, which gets into a whole thing of quantum physics and multiverses and layers of reality that may at times connect with each other or literally sort of collide, and so that sometimes things come through from one reality or dimension, if you will, to ours. Now that wouldn't necessarily be extraterrestrial, because in a multiverse, everything is, this is crazy, everything is at one place at one time. Like that movie, what was it called? Something Everywhere All at Once or something, which was about that, about multiverse. Yeah. Otherwise, extraterrestrial means they're coming from some other place other than Earth, another planet, another star, another solar system, galaxy, whatever.
All right, let's move into another quick question here from Kim. What do you think the difference is between shape-shifting and deception? One seems elevated and the other one not so much.
Deception. Is that spelled, does she mean deception, or is that spelled correctly? Because I'm not sure I'm understanding what deception, what she means by deception.
Well, probably somebody making up that they are shape-shifting.
Oh, okay. Well, I think you could certainly do that, right? There's something in the shapeshifter character that appeals to all of us because it's about transformation, right? That's what the shapeshifter is. It's transformation. And I think there's always people that say, oh, I wish I were taller. I wish I were smarter. I wish I were stronger. I wish some wish that there's something lacking. And so the shapeshifter, if you want to, I don't want to say deceptive, but you can certainly step into the shapeshifter role. Think of Halloween. You put on a costume. Now, have you shapeshifted into Superman? No, not really. But why did you pick the Superman costume to begin with? Because you admire that guy. You admire his strength and his abilities, and you say, boy, wouldn't it be cool if I can be like that? Wouldn't I like to shapeshift? Wouldn't I like to transform into Superman? So is that deception? No, but it's sort of, in a way it is. You're not a real shapeshifter, but you're sort of acting out, kind of role play, cosplay, if you will. I mean, Halloween's a great example of that. Just ask somebody, why did you pick the costume you're wearing?
Let's move on to another question here. Let's go to Jose. If all humankind is created equal, then is cryptid kind also created equal?
Okay. Let me digest that question. Well, I can maybe argue the first point, but I mean, biologically, we're all created equal. But cryptid kind, I mean, there's all different kinds of cryptids, so I don't know how they would be. Like you said, maybe Bigfoot is a cryptid, Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra. I mean, there's all kinds of cryptids. I don't know that I would call them equal, other than they're equal in the fact that they're cryptids. I guess they're unknowns.
Well, we're going to find out. See if we can sneak in one more here. We got about 2 minutes. Let's go back to Kim. How is shapeshifting related to biolocation? Saints do both, they say.
Yeah, so I don't know that shapeshifting has, I mean, that's interesting. I don't know if there's a bilocation element to that, which means simply being in two places at the same time, the same person, and having witnesses say, I saw Dave in Rome yesterday. How can I possibly have seen him in New York yesterday too? It doesn't make any sense. I haven't seen any stories or heard anything about shapeshifters being able to bilocate, and maybe they are. I just haven't heard that at all.
What about portals? Portals, if these things do have supernatural ability, you would think they'd be able to find portals or be able to jump into different dimensions in order to move along.
Right, and that's what I kind of talked about earlier when I said, these other dimensions, realities, alternate dimensions. That there would be some portal, if you will, some way to travel between them. But that still wouldn't be by location, though. That would just move you from one location to another. But bilocation actually means that the same entity or the same person is in two locations at the same time. Well, maybe in your point, though, Dave, maybe in multiple dimensions, maybe that would happen.
Or doppelgangers. That's another interesting part of this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Have you ever seen your doppelganger?
I hope not. One of me is enough. I don't want to see another one.
Well, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we have 30 more minutes with John Kachuba tonight. Shapeshifters is what we're talking about. We'll get in some paranormal questions as well. JohnKachuba.com is where you can find all of his books. He's a good one. Definitely want to add his books to your library. This is Spaced Out Radio. The second half of the show next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Guys in the chat room, if you could do me a favor, if you don't mind, please try to keep the questions pertaining to the conversation at hand rather than going off the board. It just makes it sound a lot more pro for us on the Spaced Out Radio side, number one. But number two, it's easier for the guest if we don't try and, change their focus when their focus has been on this topic all night long. So I would really appreciate that if you could, guys. Thank you. I love the cryptids, John.
Yeah, I do too.
Candace Helfrich, how are you? Good to see you. Tib Mothman and your goatee, how you doing? Two separate entities. How's the goatee doing? So answer twice, Tim, if you don't mind. The Goblin, how you doing? Tom King, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you here. That's a nice surprise. Happy Friday to you. I just hope the weather clears up tonight because we're heading into the forest tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
And don't want to be rained on. Nope. Don't want to be rained on. Oh, wonderful. Oh, that might be interesting. Supposed to get thunder showers tomorrow. What time? One to 3 millimeters. That's not a lot of rain. We can survive that. That's a sprinkle. That's what that is. A sprinkle. Jose, thank you very much. Appreciate that lovely super chat. Yeah, Forest is going to be good tomorrow. It's going to be a real good. Hey, it's gorgeous Nicole Sackage. Hi, number one. I'll give you a wave. I know you're waving back because you do that. We got about 90 seconds here, my friend. You know when you drink too much water and you feel bloated afterwards? I'm having water retention right now. Nicole, I had to do Grant's show with him tonight for like 12 minutes. He wanted to record for his new news section that he's doing. Big thank you tonight to Forrest Louis ×2, Kitty, Marie, Jose, and T-Bone, my man, for the great super chats. Appreciate your love and support of SOR, so thank you very much. Nicole, you're an expert. Hate to tell you. You are an expert. There are no experts in UFOs, she says. Nicole Sackage is damn good. Good job, Goatee. Good job. All right, we're coming back here in about 12 seconds. Yes, Erica, I agree with you. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. You guys are each and every one of you. Our guest is John Kachuba. He's got a nice beard if you haven't seen it on YouTube. Good beard, John. Appreciate that. Hey, we want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, here is author, researcher, John Kachuba. JohnKachuba.com. You can find all his books. We've been taking questions from our audience in the last little bit of the last half hour. We'll continue that right now. John, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave.
Let's go to Polly. Maybe we can all shapeshift, but we don't know how to do it. Maybe it's like telepathy, John. Your thoughts?
Well, I have to say that I don't know about shapeshifting particularly, but I do believe that we have lost a lot of, what would I say? I don't want to say supernatural abilities, but yeah, maybe I'll say supernatural abilities that we probably had millions of years ago. I mean, I think of like the cavemen millions of years ago who had no GPS, no TV, no way of really knowing when the mastodon herd was going to come by their door and they can go out and hunt it, right? But they did. They knew. Somehow they were in communication sort of with their environment, with the natural world, with the animals. So I think we've lost a lot of our sort of innate abilities as we've become more technical and technological, because we rely more on those, and those other innate abilities we have are sort of being more, as years go by, more subsumed, just patted down more and more, and we're relying on other sources to help us live. So maybe that's the same thing with shape-shifting. I don't know. It's possible. Telepathy, I think so, for sure. That's what I was kind of talking about with the animals.
What do you think telepathy means to you?
Well, I think it's just an ability to transmit thought, not so much words, but actually transmit thought to some other, I'll say human being, but maybe even to animals or whatever, and back. I mean, I got a dog, and my dog gives me signals. She'll come in, she'll stand and look at me, and I know what she wants. And I can look at her and she knows what I want her to do. Well, what is that? No hand signals. It's something, there's some telepathy going on there. And maybe we train ourselves for it, but it's there. I just saw the Kachuba Cabra. That's good.
Yes, that was good. That's why I posted. Thank you, Nicole, for the Kachuba Cabra. That's a good, that's a t-shirt for you right there.
It is. Right.
That would be excellent. All right, let's get to another question here. Let's go to, let's see here. Jose, besides the standard male rakes or low crawlers, do you think female and even juvenile rakes or low crawlers have ever been reported or seen before?
Okay, so I'm going to plead ignorance here. I don't know what a low crawler or
it's a cryptid. That's a very tough cryptid. Let's go to Tim. John, you have done, or have you done any investigations in the Southwest, such as the Congress in Tucson or Tusk? I'm going to assume that's Tucson, or the Whaley House in San Diego as examples.
Yeah, I've actually done San Diego. I've done the Whaley House and a couple other locations that's Old Town San Diego. But one of my most interesting places was in New Mexico, and it was in a town called Las Vegas, which is not the big Las Vegas in Nevada, but it's a small town in northern New Mexico. And there's a lot of haunted locations in there. In fact, I have a book called Ghost Hunters, and there's an entire chapter called the most haunted town in the Southwest, and it's that town. So, yeah, I love that area too. The Southwest is beautiful.
Let's go to Stargazer. Our radio people can't see this, but behind you got like a number of books there. So Stargazer's asking, do you actually read them books, or are they just on the shelf for looks?
Every single book on that shelf I've read. And I don't even want to turn my camera around to show you the rest of the room because it's just wall-to-wall bookcases, not to mention the stacks in my bedroom and the boxes in the basement. But yeah, I read voraciously. That's how I write.
Who's your favorite author?
Besides me?
Yes.
Well, I like a lot of guys. I like T.C. Boyle. I like, I don't know. Well, for actually the haunted stuff, I like Stephen Graham Jones. I mentioned him earlier. Paul Tremblay. These are good ghost guys, good ghost stories.
All right, let's move on to the next question here. Let's go to Leacham. What's one shapeshifter or supposed story you've heard that really scares you? Have you used any personal stories from people in your writing?
Okay. Well, so I'll answer the last one first, which is I have not used any actual personal stories that I got from people, but from what I've learned about shapeshifters, and I've gotten so much into it, that I am now writing fiction that has shapeshifter characters in it. So, Dave, you mentioned earlier at the top of the show, The Bottle Conjuror, which is one of my new books. It's historical fantasy, and it's a trilogy. That's the first book came out last year, and there's shapeshifters in it, and it all came just from doing my research. Had I not done that, there wouldn't be any in there, I'm sure. So one that really scared me was there's a guy in North Ohio here where I live named Guy Savelli. The guy's name is Guy, which unfortunately, but it's Guy Savelli. And Guy is a martial arts expert in I don't know how many types of martial arts, but he also does a lot with mind control and that kind of stuff. There was a movie and a book that came out called The Men That Look at Goats or something, and it was about special ops operations in America. Guys were being trained to supposedly be able to do like knock down a soldier or something just remotely, like remote viewing, and be able to do it. Guy Savelli was the guy that trained these guys, a lot of guy there. But he's got this ability. One of his students told me that he and Savelli were in a bar, just having a drink, not being rowdy and not causing any trouble. And some guy comes up to them who is drunk. And he gets in Savelli's face and he just starts mouthing off and everything, saying, "You think you're tough," and just stupid stuff. And the student's sitting there looking at Savelli going, "Let's just go." And Guy just stands up and he just looks at the drunk. He's just standing there looking at him. And the guy's right in his face saying, "Yeah, I'm going to kick your butt." And Savelli just looks at him. And the student says, all of a sudden, I'm looking at the drunk and his face just goes white. And his eyes open wide and he just starts going, "Okay, man, okay." And he backs off from Savelli. And I said, "What was that about?" He said, "Well, I was looking at Savelli too, and I don't know how to explain it. But all I know is I looked at Savelli's face and I saw the face of a tiger. I saw Savelli's face turn into like the face of a tiger." Wow. So that creeps me out because if that's true, then Savelli is some kind of a shapeshifter or has that ability to at least project himself that way. And I'm thinking if he does, are there people out there like that? And that goes back to what we were saying. Are shapeshifters walking among us? Is Guy Savelli a shapeshifter? I don't know.
All right, let's go to Tom here, who is asking, do you think orbs are mistaken for ghost type activity?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of explanations for orbs that have nothing to do with ghost activity. Your camera can pick up dust, can pick up a reflection off an insect flying by. Sometimes it's even with a digital camera, pixels not coming together for some reason. It could be dirt on the lens that causes that. So there's a lot of reasons. However, if you can rule out all these reasons why people do get orbs, and they get a ton of orbs, you might have something. Because I do believe that energy might actually, if you want to call it about travel, could travel in the shape of an orb, because that would be sort of an equidistant kind of object that would allow energy forces to be equal in all dimensions. So it's possible.
There's such debate right now on the whole orb aspect of everything, from dust particles to raindrops to, bugs flying through cameras and everything.
Yeah.
Do you think, but you know what? I can say this, man. I do think there is something to it. I mean, our audience here on YouTube has actually caught orbs flying through my studio while we're doing this show. I mean, how do we tell the difference between a dust particle and actually seeing an orb of light fly right past?
I'll give you a story. There was a woman in Lexington, Kentucky named Patty Starr, and she was well known in Kentucky as a ghost hunter and trainer. And so I took some of her ghost hunting courses, and it was just the two of us taking this course. And she said to me, I want you to just stand just stand there. I'm going to take your picture. I said, okay. She said, I want you to put up your hand and spread your fingers. Okay. She said, now I'm going to take a picture of you, and I'm going to tell the spirits to come to your hand in the form of orbs. Okay. So I put my hand up like this, and she took photos. And Dave, before she took a photo before, nothing. Then she said, okay, spirits, if you're here, I want you to come to John's hand. And the second picture had like 3 orbs, like right here with my hand. So, I mean, that kind of made me think, okay, that's not dust particles.
It's kind of interesting when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Kind of makes you wondering whether or not there's some truth to that. Because, I mean, you're experiencing it in real time.
Right. And it was in an area where there couldn't have been any, props. And even to say at that moment, I want you to go now to his hand. And sure enough, 2 seconds later, she shows me the photo, and there they are.
All right, let's move on to the next question. Let's go over to Jules here. It's said that people with multiple personalities can actually change in appearance. Would they be considered shapeshifters?
That's a good question. And okay, so for the purposes of my book, I would say yes. I would include them as shapeshifters, because I do talk about people that have various kinds of mental abnormalities or conditions that could cause, facial expressions to change, voice changes, or just how they behave. I think of somebody like Ted Bundy, who appeared as a clean-cut, collegiate kind of guy, young guy, would help little old ladies cross the street, put their groceries in their car, and then murder them all. What flips inside this guy? You see him as a nice, decent person, but he has this other character, this other side to him, this murderous side. So yeah, I would consider that a shapeshifter.
Let's go next to Jose, a little bit off topic. What is your view on the belief that unicorns have been seen throughout or before, although rarely in videos? Could they just be horses with birth defects?
I don't know anything about. I haven't seen the videos. I don't even know that. I didn't know that unicorns had been seen. So I'm totally lost on that one. I'm
going to take this down a little bit of a different path, though.
Okay.
Because I know you have studied Egyptology, as well as in the shape-shifting aspect with Roman and Greek gods. There are a lot of one-off creatures that they were seeing back then that we've never seen today. It makes you wonder if they're extinct. I mean, we've heard about things like Pegasus or centaurs. They're kind of all over the place with their creatures.
Well, I think that's true. And certainly unicorns, there's a long tradition in history of mythology and everything of unicorns. I guess I'm reading that question wrong. I thought that they were saying, are they appearing in videos now and everything? If they are, I don't know. I don't know about that.
All right, let's move on to a new one here. Let's go to Amy. Do you think some shapeshifters could be alien-human hybrids who have capabilities we do not?
Well, yeah, I think that's possible. And we talked a little bit earlier about some of the reptilian aliens that supposedly have been here for literally millions of years, and they actually, according to the theory behind them, is that actually the first ones that came here millions of years ago would have mated with whatever sort of proto-human was running around on the planet at that time. So, yeah, I mean, I think that would be a hybrid that would have human DNA as well as whatever. I don't know if aliens even have DNA, but whatever would be equivalent to that. So you'd have a hybrid. Yeah, I think that's true. And that would give them, that would certainly give them capabilities that other people like us who are not shapeshifters would have.
All right, let's move on to Schopenhauer. What tips do you have that are useful in identifying shapeshifters?
Wow. Well, I think that's the problem. I've seen videos, and I think maybe your person here has too as well, where you see an eye change. This is the reptilian stuff again, where the eye changes to like a vertical iris, like you see in a snake, or sometimes you see a red eye. And every video that I've seen like that, I think has pretty much been debunked. So I don't know. I mean, that's the whole mystery about shapeshifters, is that they apparently, as we've been talking about, are among us, but we just don't know. I don't know how you tell, other than the story maybe I gave of Savelli, where you literally see something like that, where you see some change, or some of the people that we talked about that seem to act differently, act something out of their character. Maybe there's something going on there, but I don't think there's any sure way to identify one.
Paulie is asking, could shapeshifters be humans with some kind of alien gene then? Or is this another realm, and how are they connected if they are?
Yeah, I think, we said already that I think, the aliens, the shapeshifter could definitely be something like the alien with, or humans with some kind of a hybrid, as you talked about earlier, human and aliens carrying both genes or whatever genes are there. Another realm, well, I mean, we talked about that too. I think it's possible that, I think the same thing about ghosts, actually, that what might be a ghost or even a shapeshifter or something like that might be something that is coming from another reality, another dimension. And how are they connected? We don't know. We talked maybe about portals again or something along those lines.
Let's see if we can get one more in. We got 5 minutes to go tonight with our guest, John Kachuba. We've been talking shapeshifters all night long. Let's go to the Doug Shelby. The Doug Shelby. Spent the night in a haunted house, unfortunately, and I ain't going back. How could the owners live there and think it was cool? I mean, that's a great paranormal question, man.
Yeah. Well, and so I know a lot of people that live in a haunted house, and I've asked them, like, doesn't that freak you out? Don't you want to leave? And they say no. I mean, they say either we're just used to it, or they'll say something like, well, it seems to be friendly, like a benign spirit, and we're not bothered by it. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure I'd want to live in a haunted house. If nothing else, it would just be probably really annoying,
Let's see here. Up next, we have Mish. How long have shapeshifters been known for?
Well, there we go. Like I said, back to, prehistoric times, that Neolithic cave painting. You're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And that's the earliest representation, actual visual representation. Doesn't mean that people, even before that, weren't talking about it and saying, you know, Bob, in that next cave over there is a shapeshifter, you know.
Do you think there will ever be modern folklore books regarding the modern age of shapeshifters?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, I said earlier that they're sort of evolving and that a lot of the stories are in our time, contemporary, and are reflecting all that. So yeah, I think they will be. They're changing as we speak, and I think they'll continue to do that to reflect whatever time that we're in and what's going on. Again, they've been around, you know, a long time.
How does one attract a shapeshifter to them? Like if I wanted to see one.
I don't know. I have not been able to attract one myself. I have a amulet that I bought in Thailand that was supposed to attract ghosts, and so far it hasn't done that. So I'm not sure. Maybe there's an amulet to attract shapeshifters. I don't know.
That'd be kind of cool if there was.
Yeah.
I think we got time for one more here. Tim Mothman asks, could ghosts or entities be shapeshifters to fool us?
Yeah, I guess. Fool us to, I don't know, to do something or just to trick us, or I don't know. I mean, shapeshifters do by their nature fool us, right? We don't know what they are. We think we're talking to, you know, Dave or me, and it turns out that, hey, we're shapeshifters. You know.
My beard is definitely a shapeshifter. I will say that. John, we got just over a minute to go with you here tonight, and I want to say a big thank you for coming on and doing this fantastic topic with us, because we can talk paranormal all night long, and usually the shape-shifting aspect does not come up. So the fact that we've had 2 hours talking to you about this is just fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm glad we had the chance to finally talk about shapeshifters. So that was good.
Right? Do me a favor, if you don't mind. Tell everybody where they can find your books. Tell everybody where they could get a hold of you, your email.
Okay, sure. So johnkachuba.com is the best way, as you mentioned. All my books are on there. You can order through the website, which will probably take you to Amazon. Depending on where you live, some of my books are more regional, but they're in bookstores too. They're on all the major sites like Barnes and Noble online, Amazon, all that stuff. So you can get them there. My website, johnkachuba.com, also has a schedule of all my events coming up, so you can see where I'll be. You can contact me directly through that. There's a contact spot there. So if you have questions or, you know, comments or whatever, you can pop them in there as well. So one stop for all.
Well, we appreciate you, John. Thank you for coming back on Spaced Out Radio. Coming up next, Swamp Dweller, an extra small Lee Strauss. Lots of UFO news for the QFA or the Q&A with Lee. This is Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Appreciate
again,
it.
Dave. Yeah, it was fun. Thanks. You take care and watch the woods tomorrow. Be careful.
You too, my friend.
Bigfoot's out there, you know.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
John Kachuba, good guy. Nina Williams, how are you? I'll be right back, everyone.
Move the chair.
It's that easy.
All right, let's bring in extra small Lee Strauss. There he is.
There I
There he
am.
is. Look at you. Seems
Look
like
at
it's
me.
been forever since we had you here.
Look at you. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. How was the road trip?
Oh, Mount Adams is beautiful, but super hot, man. It was like 93, 95 down there.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
That is warm.
But let me tell you, it smelled wonderful with all the pine trees.
Yes. Yes. Well, a couple weeks, you'll be up here.
There you go, with all my gear in tow.
I invited Grant Cameron to join us.
Oh, really? I haven't seen him for quite a number of years, so that'd be great.
I told him, I was talking to him before the show, and he's like, I said, Grant, you got to come up. He's like, maybe I'll do that. I'm like, yeah, you will. Hold on. Let's say thank you to T-Bone, Marie, Kitty, Louie ×2, and Jose for the super chats. Swamp Dweller is going to be about 6 minutes here, okay? Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us as we get ready for Swamp Dweller and extra small Lee Strauss on the Q&A. But first, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Abditive. Abditive is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I was around the age of 18 when this happened. This takes place in my hometown in rural Oregon. The town's name is Elkton. Not like that matters. You probably never heard of it. The town has a population of less than 1,000 people and consists of a restaurant, a bar, a store, a park, and a post office, all surrounded by scattered farmland. Nothing bad ever really happens there, and everyone knows each other. At this point of my life, I was lazy. I had no job, no car, still lived with my mom, and smoked a lot of weed. A certified loser. My routine was sleep in until I felt like waking up, get stoned, and play video games. Once I got bored with that, I'd walk over to my buddy's house and hang out for the rest of the night. I'd usually hang out there until around 1 a.m. For reference, I lived about 2 miles out of town, and my buddy lived in town. The walk wasn't bad though, and was probably the only exercise I was getting. I'd just pop in my headphones and zone out. This happened during one of those nights when I was walking back home. I was walking through town on the main road. I had my headphones in and was just vibing while I made the 2-mile trek. As I approached the park, I noticed a car sitting in the parking lot. It was a bit weird at first, because usually I would never see people on these walks home. The whole town was asleep during those hours. I shrugged it off as maybe someone passing through and taking a nap or something. Just off the road by the park is a trail that leads down to the river. At the start of the trail, there's a bench. As I approach the part of the road that passes by the trail, some random guy abruptly appears from the trailhead. I would say this guy looked to be in his early 40s, judging by how he dressed and his facial features. One thing was strange, though. He had aviators on, at 1 a.m. He power walked in front of me and sat on the bench. The whole situation was striking me as weird. It looked like he was just staring at me the entire time, but it was really hard to tell for sure because of the dark glasses. I was a little freaked out at first and stupidly shrugged it off. I just started walking diagonally, so there would be some distance between us once I passed him. So I pass him. I look at him, and he was still looking at me, so I took my earbuds out and kindly say, "How's it going?" I think that was a bad move. He didn't reply, of course. I just picked up the pace and focused on getting home. This guy gave me major chills, so I left one earbud out so I could hear and be aware of my surroundings. I just got about a 1/4 mile away down the road and decided to look back to see if he was still sitting there. He wasn't. He was now walking behind me, following me pretty heavily, and he was closing the distance. I swear my heart skipped a beat when I saw this. Could he really be following me? Maybe he lives up here too. But that had to be his car at the park, so why is he on foot? All these questions were flying through my head. I looked back and he was even closer and walking at a faster pace. Fight or flight kicked in, and I went from a casual stroll to a dead sprint instantly. I looked back once more, and he matched my pace and was now sprinting as well. For some reason, I decided to veer off the road and cut through the forest. I sprinted over broken branches and through brush for a bit until I eventually dove into a big bush. I instantly went silent. I could hear him stomping through the forest behind me. Then suddenly, he went quiet as well. I think he was trying to pinpoint where I was. This lasted a few minutes before I heard him start to go the other way back to the park. I felt so relieved that he gave up. I still waited there for a few more minutes until his footsteps faded away, and I was sure he was out of the forest. Then I cut back through the road as quietly as I could. Once I hit the pavement, I checked both ways to make sure he wasn't there. There was no sign of him anywhere, but honestly, I could only see for probably 40 feet in either direction, because I was no longer in the main part of town and there were no street lamps. I was still relieved because I thought for sure I had lost him, so I just focused on getting home. I was only about a mile away or so at this point. Eventually, I put my headphones back in and started to relax as much as I could, not even fully cluing in on what just happened. A few minutes passed and I started to notice a light coming up behind me. Headlights from a vehicle. My stomach sank as I was praying that it wasn't him. He must have gone back to get his car, I thought. As it approached me, it slowed down. I cringed as it pulled up next to me and came to a stop. I looked expecting to see that guy wielding a weapon and demanding that I get in the car. Thankfully, it wasn't him. It was a local guy around my age, Brent, on his way home from a get-together. What's up, dude? I spoke. Hey man, do you need a ride home? He asked. Stupidly, I replied, Nah, dude, it's all good. I'm almost home. Thanks, though. I could see a worried expression on his face as he cut me off. Are you sure? You know there's someone following you, right? I immediately looked down the road behind me, and there he was. The same guy. He was closer than ever before, and I somehow never noticed him. I could see something in his hands reflecting from Brent's taillights. I never lost him. He was following me the entire time. I was completely oblivious. I looked back at Brent and didn't say anything and scrambled in the truck. I didn't say anything during the ride. All I was thinking about how stupid I was. We pulled into my driveway, and I was never happier to see my house. As I was getting out of the truck, Brent jokingly said, I probably just saved you from being murdered. He couldn't have been closer to the truth, honestly. The older I get, the scarier this experience becomes. What were his intentions? What was he going to do? Kill me? Abduct me? Why was he in Elkton, Oregon, of all places? I'm glad I never found out. I stopped staying at my buddy's house so late after this experience, and always kept one earbud out so I could be aware of my surroundings. No matter how much you think you know an area, or how safe you think it is, you should always be prepared for anything. There are truly evil and insane people in this world. Stay safe out there, everyone.
Nothing spooky about that one. Swamp Dweller doing a great job putting the goosebumps on our skin tonight. Thank you, Swamp Dweller. If you want more stories like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. There are literally thousands of stories there for you to listen to. Time for Lee. All right, extra small Lee Strauss back from Mount Adams in Washington State, where he was looking for UFOs, aliens, and Bigfoot all at once. And Lee, how was the trip, buddy?
Well, like I was saying earlier, it was hot. Holy cow. And I know a lot of people are dealing with temperatures above 100, but on Mount Adams, when it's above up into the 90s, it's miserable. It really is. Especially if you have a hard time escaping the heat and you can't go anywhere. It's not like where we always go up high so we can get a good view of everything. So there's not like a river or a creek or anything to get into nearby. So it's always tough. But we unpacked our gear and set some stuff up real quick and got everything ready. Friday night wasn't too eventful, but Saturday night something went down.
What happened?
This is good. Okay, so we were watching the mountain. I was directly facing Mount Adams from the west side of it. And my buddy Ander was messing around with some stuff near his chair, and Alex was over doing something else. And I was the only person that saw this. I just happened to look straight up in the air, just straight vertical, 90 degrees. This red object, round object, flew straight over me, straight over us, and right to Mount Adams. It was moving quick. Now, if you can imagine just the size of your palm extended all the way out, that's how much of the sky was covering it. Not your fingers, but just the palm of your hand. This thing was big. I can only imagine that it was about 2,000 to 3,000 feet above our heads when it shot over the top of us. No sound whatsoever. And my cameras probably caught this thing.
Wow.
Yes. Wow is right.
I mean, that's a pretty low-flying craft.
Uh-huh. And quick. Silent, nothing.
No sound?
No sound. I mean, I was like, whoa, I was screaming to the guys. I'm like, of course, everybody else missed it. And I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. But, of course, I had my camera equipment running. So, I would 99.9% a chance that I caught this thing as it went over Mount Adams. Not directly up, because I don't have anything facing directly up. Everything is facing at Mount Adams. But yeah, that was amazing.
And it was red.
It was red.
What time of the day did this happen?
This was about 11:10 at night.
So how do you know it's red?
I saw it with my eyes. It was just
The light was red, or the craft
light
was red?
was red, like solid red. There was nothing, you couldn't discern any breaks in the material or whatever it was. Just as it looked like you were looking at a stoplight, like a red stoplight. That's how intense red this thing was.
Like
So,
I apologize for sounding silly here. The entire craft was lit up red?
yeah, the whole bottom side. I couldn't see anything but the bottom. The whole bottom side was just this solid red color. Not diffuse to the edges or anything. And this thing, it probably took a second.
What shape was it?
Round, just big round disc from the bottom side of this thing. It's all I could see. You know, and then it shot off right over the mountain, and so, you know, fading out to nothing. And but it took about a second. It was rather quick, and we were about 8 miles away from the mountain itself. But to
I've
come
never heard of that, man.
Over our heads, directly over our heads, like it knew where we were, you know, and just shot directly over us and right to the mountain and disappeared.
I don't even know what to think about that.
I don't either. You know, I've heard of orange fireballs in the sky and those sorts of things, but I've never seen a red. And who knows why red? I don't know. So,
Well, that's a first.
Yeah. The other really bizarre thing that happened when we got there on Friday, there was this deer that came out of the woods and would not leave us alone the whole time we were there, the 2 days that we were in this one location. Yeah, that was weird because it would be in the woods at night and you could hear it clomping around and that. And we didn't know what it was at night, you know, once we went to bed. During the day, it was there. And of course, once we shined the light on it, came out of our tents and shined the light, we could see it's that same deer. But why was it hanging around? Why was it hanging around us like that? I have no idea. Maybe it was looking for a handout. I don't know.
There may have been predators around and it found safety around you.
Yeah, that's the other thought.
Or it's just a shapeshifter waiting to kill you.
Well, we heard about those deer that have the forward-looking eyes and the weird feet. Yeah, so I don't know. Could be something like that.
Any signs of Sasquatch while you were there?
Oh, no, we're going to go to that next.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. So guess where Ander and I went to after that location?
You went back to the location you were at with Jackie.
You got
last year.
You got it.
So before we get into that, let's tell our radio audience what happened last year and why you went back there this year.
There was a lot of things that happened last year, Dave. That was the most intense experience Jackie ever had and I have ever had. And the fact that I couldn't stay awake was really bizarre. The first thing we got there and I had, you know, I just howled, did a Bigfoot howl call, and I got one back right away. And so that whole time that we were there, we kept hearing like rocks being thrown, sticks breaking, vocalizations, things walking around. You could hear them walking around camp. I got thermal hits on the thermal camera. You know, we captured all the audio, which was just nuts. The tent that we were in, it's called a tensile, which hangs off the 3 points basically. So it's hangs off the ground about, well, whatever distance you want off the ground. In this case, it was about 4 feet off the ground, and they hit the strap. They, you know, were messing with throwing logs in camp. I mean, everything we got on audio, right? And then it reached its arm underneath the tent and was actually grabbing on to Jackie And I thought it was just like this. I didn't understand why there was this big roll in the mattress. There shouldn't have been. And I didn't understand that it was a Sasquatch arm that was lifting and making that roll in the mattress. So I was trying to fix that. And she was hitting me with her elbow, trying to get me to stop moving around and shut up, because and I had no idea at the time. She didn't tell me till the next day that she was actually being grabbed by this Sasquatch, right? So we went back to that location. I brought the same tent that we were in. I hung it up in the very same tree. I brought out the very same equipment, set up everything just like I had before. I did put trail cameras in different locations this time. But Andrew and I walked down, and we could see again that something had been walking through the marsh and left similar footprints, but maybe in a slightly different location than previously, that we had seen previously. And man, I wish I could tell you that we had some really crazy experiences, but nothing like Jackie and I had. There was twigs breaking in the middle of the night. Something was around camp breaking twigs. We didn't get to see what it was. Andrew was in a hammock outside my tent. And he was like, dude, I want to climb inside your tent so bad. Whatever's going on is freaking me the frick out right now. So he was pretty scared, but he stayed in his hammock all night long, which I don't know how he did that, but he did. There was some vocalizations that we also heard. So I'm sure we captured some of those too. And illegible, garbly-gook off in the distance, basically, is what it sounded like. So I'm pretty sure that we got that. I'm sure we got that on audio. And it's just a matter of, I still have all my camping gear and stuff spread out all over my living room. In fact, the day that I got back, actually it was the next day, I woke up and there was a big freaking spider that crawled underneath my couch for my camping equipment. He's still in the house somewhere.
Oh my.
Oh yeah, that's terrifying enough, right? But I do need to get through a bunch of footage this weekend. Now that I've got the weekend off, I should be able to get through a bunch to see, what we might have captured from that event, and then also the red UFO that we captured, that I think I captured on film.
Where will you be posting that for our audience who may want to see it?
All that is on Lee Strauss on Facebook. So, and the evidence that I do capture, I will have a show about all that evidence, and I will bring it on Element 115 and show everybody what was captured as well.
Love it, buddy. Love it. We got 3 minutes to go before we go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Extra small Lee Strauss telling about his exquisite getaway at Mount Adams, Washington, where he saw this brightly lit up round object fully covered in red. What color red was it? Was it a darker red? Was it a bright red?
It was red, like, okay. So look at the background of the screen right here, right between the Sasquatch and the little alien. So yes, it's this red. So the people that can't hear or can't see this right now, the best way to describe this red was if you were looking at a stoplight. That's the closest red I can get to. But right here between the Sasquatch and the UFO, this kind of a red here. But that's just bright. I mean, it was very bright.
I hope you caught that on tape.
Oh boy.
I really hope you caught that on tape.
It would be
I will be really excited if you did.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be a short piece of footage, but it would be great. Awesome.
Are there any secret bases in that area for the U.S. Air Force or the military?
Not for the military that we know of. There's a couple things going on. We might have to run this into the next segment, but you've got all of that Native American land on the other side of Adams. It's almost split right down the center. And like it's half the mountain is Native American land, and the other side, the west side of that mountain is, you know, all for the public, but east side is all Native American land. So that stuff that goes on back there, we're not able to see, but there's been a lot of reports from over there. I think it's called the White Swan Native American area. Yeah. So I'm not sure about that. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. So lots of activity there. There's probably bases inside the mountain, not only there, but up at Mount Baker as well. There's a lot of stories about that sort of thing. As you well may know, that there's supposed doors and stuff that allow craft to go in and out of Mount Adams, which I have my own theories on, but it's been said.
Man, I'd love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see one of those doors open up for giants in mountains or UFOs hiding in mountains. Mount Shasta is said to have those too.
Exactly. And I think there's a reason why all these mountains have.
Well, let's get to that when we return on Spaced Out Radio. Extra small Lee Strauss from Spaced Out Radio's Element 115, which you can watch on YouTube. We're going to get into this big time next on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're clear.
Yep. Okay.
The Doug Shelby is asking, Dave, you went into Flight 21 this summer, apprehensive to put it mildly. Current evaluation? Still apprehensive, but giddy at the same time. Like, I am so excited to get back out there. It's just, you know, there is something strange. And the thing is, our first 6 are over. Now we get to investigate. And the phenomena is just saying, go for it. Go for it. Tomorrow night is going to be interesting. We are going to introduce you to somebody that you don't know. Her name is Lolly Bennett. And she will be on the video in a week from now. She is a First Nations healer. Mm-hmm. She is bringing her drum. She is going to sing out there, and we're going to see how everything reacts. The other thing, too, last week, Tim and I both were carrying black obsidian in our pockets, which is supposed to ward off anything spiritually from us. And we think it may have worked a little too well. So we are making sure that we are not bringing any black obsidian with us this next time around. Lon Strickler had recommended that.
Yeah, we play a lot of Native American flute music when we're out. I don't know if it does anything for them, whatever's out there, but I think it does something psychological for us. It opens us up a little bit.
That doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
Does not surprise me.
I'm
curious just to see how it works, because it was funny because when I talked to Lolly earlier this week, she picks up the phone, like we were texting, and she picks up the phone when I called because I asked if I could call her, and she goes, "I knew you would be calling this week." I said, "How?" She goes, she goes, "The last few days, the spirits from up there have been have been contacting me. And I said, well, it's time. And she's like, I'm so excited. So, yeah, she's agreed to come up there. She's never been up there. It's going to be really, really interesting. Really interesting.
I'm excited for you guys for sure. That's awesome.
Then in a couple weeks' time, extra small Lee Strauss is going to be up here hanging out with us.
That's
He's
right.
going to be ripping ass and taking names like Tim does. Dude, that comment I made with Tim when he said, I'm darn near 60 years old. I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah,
You're way
funny.
older.
That was hilarious. I don't think he caught on to it.
I don't think he saw it either.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You know, I wish I had time, you know, here real quick to go back to Adams, because I actually got very violently ill when I was there.
Oh no.
Yeah. That last day that we were there, which was Friday. No, I'm sorry, Monday. I was like, dude, we got to pack up and go. I can't stay here another night. There's no way. It felt like somebody was standing on my head. It was bad and so nauseous. It was horrible.
We got 40 seconds. Big thank you to Forrest Louis ×2, Jose, T-Bone, and Marie. Thank you very much for your love and support tonight. Greatly appreciate it. Be like extra small Lee Strauss. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. Give us a thumbs up for tonight. And don't forget after the show to leave a comment for us. FU, Zaddy, how you doing? And don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Yes, I wear a lot of tinfoil. Make sure the aliens don't get me. What's your fashion choice du jour? Let us know at info@spacedoutradio.com or on X @spacedoutradio. We got another half hour with extra small Lee Strauss. Before we bring him in, let us say to all of you that did you know our archives are always free? Yeah, they are. You know why? I want them that way. I'm stubborn. I'm crass. And I remember being in college, not being able to afford the archives to a show that I wanted to listen to at night. Maybe talked about these topics. But $10 a month was just a little too much for Dave during his poor college days. So I keep them free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X @SpacedOutRadio, Instagram @SpacedOutRadioShow, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's extra small Lee Strauss talking about his vacation jaunt to Mount Adams, where the Bigfoot were lurking, the UFOs were flying over, and somebody threw a Frisbee that looks like a giant stop sign into the sky at night. Lee, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here. So we're going to go into this whole possibility of, you know, these underground bases in these mountains, why they may use these mountains for their bases. Well, you think about all the lava tubes and everything that's already hollowed out underneath these mountains. It's vast. It's vast. If you ever heard about Mount St. Helens, when you go there, there's all kinds of these caverns left over from the eruptions, these old lava tubes, and some of them inside are pretty substantial. And there's a lot of mineralization too that goes along with these areas. If they need any type of, building blocks, let's say, for whatever it is, they can probably find it in and around those areas. Sulfur, there's just, you name it. It's going to be brought up from the Earth's mantle, right? And it's going to be placed around. So it's easily accessible in those locations. So that's another reason why I believe they use these volcanoes, dormant or not, even for their bases.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Lots of UFO news going on right now. I don't know if you heard this or not, but Matt Laszlo from Askapol.com asked Representative Robert Garcia about UFOs, and Garcia had a little bit of a strange topic or comment on the question. He, in me paraphrasing, basically said the subject of UFOs is starting to dwindle within the Republican Party in Washington, D.C. They don't seem to have the support on this subject as they did a number of months ago or even a year or two ago. And it's not sure if it's even worth carrying on the conversation. Now, that's a big, big set of words there from Garcia, because it is the Republicans who have been leading the charge, albeit the more junior Congress people, whether it's Nancy Mace, whether it's Tim Burchett, Eric Burleson, Anna Paulina Luna, Lauren Boebert. Okay, now I'm not saying these aren't great people and great Americans who are doing a good job, but what I am saying is that they may not have the support, Lee, that they thought they did. Your thoughts on this?
Well, as we've heard from David Grush and from so many others that have come forward, that they've been subjected to quite a few little tactics. One of those tactics that they've been subjected to is the taking away their pensions for coming out and talking about this stuff. Messing with their insurance, their health insurance, and these sorts of things. And we're not talking about an individual; we're talking about whole families here, right? So this is a big deal. I heard that there is only going to be there is one person that they have that's going to come forward and talk about what they know in the next hearing. One. There's
a lot of speculation on that, because at first we were hearing the new hearings would be happening sometime this month. Then that got changed. It was like, no, we don't see them happening till September. And now today I'm hearing it's back on for July 26th. So I'm not really sure when these hearings are going to take place. They're all over the map.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we have quite a few sticks in the mud that are trying to manipulate things right now. The biggest thing that I've noticed within the last month, Dave, is this whole turning of it's not alien craft, it's ours. We're testing our stuff. And we have been testing our stuff for a long time now, way back into the 70s and so forth. They're telling us that they're showing these craft to other military people, and they're, trying to trick them or haze them with these craft. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Why would they be hazing our military with craft that they have? What sounds like to me, Dave, it sounds like they are deliberately saying that they're theirs to make the Chinese, who now have the tech and the abilities, to fly these sorts of craft as well, letting them know that we're super far ahead of them already, that we've been doing this for a long time. That's the kind of feeling that I'm getting.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so. You know,
Yeah.
it's just this leads into another story. I'm not sure if you heard this one or not.
Mhm.
But allegedly, Tim Phillips, the gentleman who came out basically saying that the Tic Tacs were American technology when he was the assistant director of AARO, the All Domain Anomalous Resolution Office, he got fired.
Oh,
He got fired. 45 years in the government system, and he got fired. And apparently, he was released from his duties. He was planning on retiring in October of this year. But apparently, they released him early. The OSNDI released him early because he was saying way too much about what he knew about AARO and about the technologies.
well, they're going to try to make an example out of him. That's what they would do to try to discourage other people from coming forward.
Well, I mean, it is a nice little payday for your last 3 months you get off before your pension kicks in.
Well,
But here is the thing about that, though. He came out basically saying the Tic Tacs were human-made. Other craft that people are seeing out in the sky are mostly human-made by places like Lockheed Martin and other skunk works type of companies. It amazes me that, to me, that gives him a little bit of truth. Or maybe they fired him to end his top secret clearance so he couldn't testify.
Yeah, that's probably a really good point. That way, that's plausible deniability. He'll probably, in his case, he'll probably keep his pension, and they used him as a scapegoat, wanting him to say those things, right? In my opinion, they'd probably want him to say those things just so, like what I was saying before, that we're letting the Chinese know we've been ahead of them for a while. So nobody makes
I think, I mean, don't forget Lee here for a second. Okay. And I had this pointed out to me. The United States Skunk Works programs came up with stealth technology in the late 1950s. Okay. The SR-71 started test flying as the A-12 ox cart in, I think, 1961. That's when they developed the stealth technology. So for 64 years, the United States has been flying stealth aircraft. The ones we know are these ones. The SR-71, the A-12 ox cart, the U-2 is a spy is a stealth plane. Okay, but not as stealthy as they thought it would be. The F-117 Nighthawk, the B-1 bomber, the B-2 bomber, the B-21 Spirit, or no, it's not Spirit. I forget its name. The new B-21 that's shaped like the B-2 Spirit, the F-35, and the F-22. Now, here's the interesting part about that. We don't know what else they have that could be flying like that. But the Russians and Chinese only developed their stealth technology about 15 years ago, maybe 20. So the United States has a 40-year gain on them. What do they have, the American developers have, in that 40 years, if stealth technology is 60 years old? and the Russians and Chinese are just starting to push out their aircraft that have those capabilities. What do the Americans have?
Well, I believe that we have UFO type technology. There's nothing that's gonna, no smoking gun that I have, other than, you know, what people have said, you know, that we're working on it, that we've been working on it, you know, since the 50s, that we've had, you know, downed craft and that sort of thing. But in that amount of time, I'm sure we have one in the air, or two, or multiple.
Well, if you can look at the secret space program,
yeah,
black triangles,
right? Yes, there's so many, there's so much out there that, you know, points to one direction and then the opposite direction. People get lost in it. I get lost in it because there's just so much, and you know, that's just, it's so confusing. You don't know who to listen to. You don't know who to trust anymore. And that's why we need the government and these people, these whistleblowers, to come out and tell us what they know, right? We need firsthand knowledge, firsthand, somebody that's put their hand on the darn thing. We need a pilot. Now they're saying that these pilots they have for these craft don't actually sit in the craft. They fly them with their mind, which is just a whole nother layer to the cake that, you know, now we have to deal with and try to figure out how to add that into our paradigm with psionics. You know, you just don't know what to believe, and that's got to be done purposely, just to confuse us all. But I think that they are letting out some information just so that they can show people like Russia and China that we have that technology and we've had it for a while.
And that's exactly it. I mean, now you have to get into any other discussion on this regarding anti-gravitics, gravitational forces, anything to do with the propulsion systems. How far ahead are they?
Yeah.
You know, are they still, I mean, remember when Ben Rich in the early 1990s stood up and said, we have the technology to get ET home again. It was believed at that point they were 50 years ahead of what we see in the sky right now. Well, let's fast forward 30 years with the increased capability of technology and AI. How much further are we? Are we 50 to 80, 50 to 100, 80 to 150?
There's no
we can only speculate.
Yeah, I mean, there's outlandish things that have been said, like, heck, you know, if we can take a craft, you know, it's been said that we can take a craft to another star system and that sort of thing, like taking ET home. I mean, that's like the extreme amount of things. And not only that, but going back in time or forward in time and manipulating reality and doing all of this stuff. This is the far bleeding edge of what they're saying, right? So we can't go that far. Let's try to pull it back. And same with the reverse, you know, and you think about the fact that they say, well, you know, they don't know what they're seeing. So we got to meet somewhere in the middle is what I try to believe in, right? I don't want to be the extreme one side or the extreme the other. I want to try to pull into the center and try to formulate my reality around something in the center. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to get these people that say, you know, we can go to, you know, or 400 years in the future or in the past and all this stuff. But come on, let's try to bring it in a little bit here.
Well, I mean, the problem is we don't know. We'll never know. Here's something interesting. Dr. Gary Nolan from Stanford University, who is a giant proponent of UFOs and disclosure, he's got his fingers in more UFO scientific groups than we have fingers on our hands. Well, he was recently interviewed by clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson. And here's the interesting part about it. He said two things in that really caught my attention. Number one, that he got a call from somebody, he wouldn't say who, from the White House of Washington, D.C., basically saying, Gary, shut up. It's time for you to shut up. You're too close to everything. It's time to shut up. Which he's not. He's kind of defying that. But from a Canadian perspective, he also stated that previously he had flown to Ottawa, Canada's capital, and actually met with 3 of the 4 parties in the House of Commons. So he met with members of Parliament from the Conservative Party of Canada, the Liberal Party of Canada, and the New Democratic Party. He said the only party he didn't meet with, that didn't send any members to his talk, was the Quebec Party, Bloc Québécois. Nobody knew that. I even talked to my source today about that. And he didn't even know. He's like, where did that come from? I said, Gary Nolan himself.
Yep.
Are you surprised that he was told to shut up?
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised. I'm not. You know, if he's got the inside scoop and people are coming to him with information, and not only that, they've come to him because he knows about some tech that, you know, he's been working with and that sort of thing. But and now he's with Skywatcher as well. So, you know, and he understands what this dog whistle is and all these other things. I can understand why they're telling him to be quiet. They're trying to shut this thing down right now. And there's still a lot of people that want to know, not only want to know, but there's a lot of people that want to come forward that are scared to come forward. And the more that we beat this drum, the more it's talked about, the more people feel like they can come forward easier. But if we're shut up and we're not talking about that, and we've got other things to talk about, like the stuff that's been in the news lately, the fewer people that are going to want to come out and talk about this subject. So they're really trying to keep a lid on it. Just like in Canada, you know, your UFO report came out. What 3-4 days ago?
Yes.
And that was a bunch of hogwash.
It's definitely behind what we are seeing in the United States. But here's the one thing, and we're down to less than a minute here.
Okay.
But here's the one thing I will say about the Canadian report. They specified that they do need a task force. Okay. And I think it's great. And it also is because they declined the threat narrative towards this topic, which was also impressive too. Am I impressed with nuts and bolts? No, this subject is way further and beyond nuts and bolts, but it's a start. It's a big start. And the problem that they are going to have is getting Parliament to support it. Yeah. That's going to be the hard one. Lee, I want to say a big thank you for coming on in for the Q&A tonight. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And thank you very much for your time. Coming up, we're going to say goodnight. As we say goodnight to Lee. And hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, #Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job, Lee. Let's give you a few claps before you get out of here.
Well, I'm not. Hold on now. All this says is that they want to have better reporting procedures.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. They had a year and 2 years, and they were supposed to have it out in a year and a half, and it took them 2 years to figure out that they needed better reporting procedures.
Yep.
Come on, man. That's ridiculous. How many crashed craft have you guys had? They were supposed to investigate all this stuff and come out with and not only that, Dave, they're saying that they might not even come forward with the findings that they find or have when they do these investigations. Come on, you guys need to know just as much as we do. This is ridiculous.
Working on that.
Okay.
Listen to me type while I'm looking at you.
I don't know what the heck's going on over there. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's upsetting. We have to deal with it here in America, and then we have to, hear about it, the same sort of sidewinder crap happening in Canada. It seems like really everybody's in cahoots over this one subject.
Yes, and that is true. They are very, very far away from making anything happen in Canada. Let's be frank. Okay, they have no support from Parliament, no support from any politician right now, because the ringleader of it all, Larry Maguire, retired before the previous election. They have nobody standing up to say, hey, I'll take the lead on this. So the benefit that they have is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police agreed with the report, saying that we need a national institution to study this. And the question now becomes, will the military, will the spy agencies, will Transport Canada, NAV Canada, and every other Canadian alphabet agency give their reports to this group? Excuse me. Sorry about that.
It's all right. Well, I with everything that's going on right now, and I'm not talking, about, there's a lot of things that are going on here in the U.S. where things are getting shoved under the rug that we're not hearing about, that we were promised to hear about. And it's actually widening that door open for me. It's given me a little bit more of a glance at what's going on behind the scenes. We're never going to know.
They don't want us
Ever.
to know. It's
They
a dead topic, dude.
Exactly.
I hate to say that to our audience. It's a dead topic. And with the fact that the Republicans are now not even backing their own people on the study of it all.
Yep.
That's dangerous for what we love.
Yeah.
I don't like it any more than you do. But that's the way they're going.
Well,
they want to get this subject back in control of being a mockery to people, that it's Venus, that it's swamp gas, that it's Chinese balloons. Okay, that's what they want. They don't want the Lee Strausses or the Dave Scotts or the contacts in the deserts or the UFO cons. They don't want any of that. They just want it to be gone, go away. And until we start to realize that, and realize that apology, and I know I'm going to piss people off with this, that apology ruined ufology. We got to get back to ufology, where at least we're digging, and people felt more comfortable sharing secrets because we'd keep their names off the ledger.
Yep.
Well, that's my point.
It's the truth. I don't know what else. There's not going to be another David Grush coming forward. I can tell you that much. We can always hope. Well,
give me 2 seconds here.
Sure, not a problem. Okay. Well, I hope you all are having an awesome Friday. For sure. That's right.
All right. David Nuremberg, Canada has a couple of secretive bases. One in Alberta, and I think one in Quebec.
It's for me, it's just listening to what's going on and then feeling it, and then coming up with my own conclusions, because that's the only thing you can do. You can't rely on any of the news that's coming out, it seems.
Right.
It's so much of this. It's very upsetting.
It happens, man. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing here? Should load that up. Well, I'm sure you guys all want some entertaining programming, so head on over to Sweet Robbie G's channel. I think he's going to open up the lines talking about Skinny Bob, not Fat Dave, Skinny Bob. Go talk some aliens. Thank you tonight to Louis ×2, Kitty Caddywhack, Marie, Jose, and T-Bone, my man, for the great super chats. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who subscribed this week. We had over a couple hundred new subscribers this week alone, which is pretty amazing for our channel. So thank you very much. Extra small, stick around in the back. I will say goodnight to each and every one of you. We'll see you on Monday, where my guest will be Lon Strickler. Yes, Lonance will be here. Lonance. See you then, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.